Remember the good old days when racism and segregation were bad? Well, the London production of a hit US theatre show called Slave Play will hold two so-called blackout performances solely for an all-black identifying audience. Set on a plantation in the old American South, the award-winning play explores race, identity and sexuality. Well, I look forward to seeing the show on one of the nights when maybe I'm allowed to go. How much mental gymnastics do you have to do to reach the conclusion that segregating people based upon the colour of their skin is somehow the best way to tackle racism? I would humbly suggest it's like trying to tackle a forest fire with gallons of unleaded petrol. This segregation policy was first tried during the show's run in ultra-woke New York City. Now, there's a surprise. Now, clearly there are people of ethnic backgrounds who do not participate enough in live theatre. And this highly regarded show, which tackles the hellish crime and dark legacy of slavery, should be watched and enjoyed by as wide an audience as possible. But the optics of an invitation to just one group of people based upon the pigmentation of their skin to anyone with half a brain is divisive, deranged and potentially dangerous. How does racism fix racism? How does the return of apartheid, which is what this policy effectively amounts to, help people of colour? After decades of progress in the West, much of this looks to be under threat or could even be reversed, with the idea that people of colour are somehow tragic victims who need to be among their own in order to enjoy the benefits of a theatrical performance. I don't see anyone of colour as a victim, only as my brothers and sisters. Defenders of the policy have talked about how unsafe theatres are these days for some groups. That's right, they say the theatre is unsafe. Do me a favour. Theatres are only unsafe if you're sat next to someone endlessly coughing, getting up to go to the restrooms, or spilling their Haagen-Dazs salted caramel ice cream on your lap. And these performances are apparently there to help patrons avoid the white gaze. This is progress, is it? Demonising groups based upon immutable characteristics. It's like Martin Luther King never happened. Let's not forget, this is a man who said that we should be judged on the content of our character, not the colour of our skin. Well, he'd probably be cancelled in 2024 for his common sense words and his desire to bring humanity together. Black lives matter, which is why people of colour shouldn't be treated like children or victims and be pushed into cultural silos by deluded woke nutjobs. Here's an idea. Why don't we try to get everyone to go to the theatre? That's right, lower ticket prices, have better marketing of shows across all communities, including to ethnic groups, and have school trips. Maybe all communities could go to the theatre together and learn together. This exclusionary stuff is divisive and wrong, and probably illegal if enforced very literally. This policy to shut certain people out of performances is a pantomime, a farce, and the theatre of the absurd. This 5-star show gets only 1 star for common sense. Let's get reaction to this crazy story from the highly entertaining broadcaster, writer and comedian Michael Loftus. Michael, great to have you on the show. You spent more than 2 decades in the creative arts. What do you make of this story?
It's hilarious to me. I just can't stop laughing. I mean, the comedian me, when they say they want to protect people from the white gaze, hey, that's pretty much all we have on Broadway out here. Is a bunch of white gaze.
Too many white gaze. Well, what does it even mean? It's extraordinary language. What does white gaze even mean?
I think it means people who view the world through the lens of a white person. Okay. So listen, it's horribly racist. It's hilarious. There should be like a Mel Brooks Broadway show about this show. It's so absurd. And listen, why just 2 days? Why not 2 weeks? Why not a year? Do a full year of maybe time travel and just have black-only theaters. It is a giant step backwards in terms of race relations, and everybody should be ashamed.
Well, indeed. I mean, how did this policy of black-only shows go down when it was piloted in New York? Was there a similar backlash there?
Well, I think what it is like we don't have a marketing budget because we're not selling enough tickets. So what you do is you do something so ridiculous and absurd. People go on TV and they make fun of you and they talk about it, and you hope to move some tickets that way. I liked your idea. Lower the prices. Make it more acceptable. Look, entertain me. How about you do that?
Well, indeed. Now, Michael, we can all agree that racism is the greatest stain on humanity. It continues as a big problem. But there's a difference between racism and so-called anti-racism, which is very much a political ideology.
Yeah. And listen, you'll never be anti-racist enough. Those are the people who you'll lose sleep over thinking about those people. Then it's like the Spanish Inquisition. Then they'll just show up at your door and you have to have a series of tests that you're anti-racist enough. How many times did you see that show? Did you appropriate that culture? It's a nightmare. It'll only get worse. We need to stamp out this crazy insanity before it gets started.
However, Michael, I think you'll agree that theatre shows, musicals are dominated by sort of middle-class white audiences, both in America and the UK. So do you think more should be done to encourage ethnic people to go to the theatre? Do they have a point on that regard?
Write more shows. Like, listen, when you write a great show that entertains people, that people, you cannot keep that a secret. There's a ton of like really awesome multicultural shows, and what happens is sometimes you get a true visionary like Tyler Perry, who can't get his show onto Broadway. He can't get it to off-Broadway. So he just traveled America with it. And now look at him. He's like one of the captains of the Hollywood industry. He's got studios. So listen, write better shows. Write more entertaining shows.
Great advice. Speaking of which, a top British comedian, Michael, called Joe Lycett has attacked Ricky Gervais, saying that the idea that wokeness is killing comedy is entirely fabricated. Lycett has said that Ricky Gervais's material, which rails against political correctness, would bomb at a comedy club. Now, as a top comic yourself, are you in Gervais's team or Lycett's?
I'm on team Gervais here completely. Listen, being woke and being it just makes it kills comedy. It's because everything is too predictable, because they know, oh, you're not going to talk about this, you're not going to talk about that, and comedy is built on surprise and truth in a lot of ways. And this Jimmy Visine guy, he's just jealous. This is just old school jealousy on his part. And like, I'm sure Ricky Gervais has not lost a moment of sleep because his giant pile of money keeps him very comfortable.
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? Because, I mean, I've got to say, a brilliant comedian that's railed against wokery and extreme political correctness. The biggest comedy stars in the world are anti-woke. It's Ricky Gervais, it's Louis C.K., Dave Chappelle, Bill Burr. These are the biggest stars in comedy. So the audience are voting with their feet. They're voting with their wallets, aren't they?
Yeah, everybody sees it. Listen, you can only keep something true a secret for a long time. You could. It's like the Ringling Brothers guy. You can fool some of the people some of the time, but not all the people all the time. People can insist on this wokeness, but at some point, reality is not going to keep quiet. And when someone does something completely idiotic, like we have Joe Biden here every single day. He's just been a constant supply of laughs.
Correct.
If you're not talking about it, you're an idiot. You're a moron.
Yeah, most definitely. And it's hilarious watching the late night, Michael, watching the late night US talk show hosts, basically pretending that Donald Trump is still president so they can do monologues about him because they don't want to mention what a severe state of dementia the current president is actually in.
Yeah, that's really what helped me decide to kick the door open and just go on stage and do my specials about reality. When you look at the talk show hosts and you're like, oh, I know how that guy voted. I know how he votes. I know how he votes. It becomes predictable and boring. And that's why their ratings are down. And that's why the alternatives to that are so refreshing, like you're saying. with like the Bill Burrs of the world. You're like, I have no idea what that guy's going to say next, but it was funny. That's what comedy's meant to be. It's
right.
silly,
Yeah.
it's silly, it's brave, it's all those things.
Most definitely. There was a great viral clip a few years ago of Bill Burr being castigated by a female comic saying that there aren't enough opportunities for women comedians. Is that fine? Go and build your own comedy club then, because we've built loads. Go and build a club and be funny. And it was ruthless but hilarious. Michael, last but not least, tell me about Google Gemini. What is it and why is it such a big story at the moment?
It is the most frustrating thing. It's this woke AI that everybody thinks is like it landed from outer space. AI is a computer program, and they asked it to show me a picture of one of the founding fathers. All of the images came out black. Like everybody. It's funny, but like everyone's trying to act like, oh, why did Gemini do it? Gemini did it because it's programmed that way. It's not like some neighbor kid who came over to visit with a box of crayons. This is and it goes to a much deeper problem that I think Google is incredibly biased. Google is incredibly woke. Everybody working on these programs, you go to Google, you're like, am I getting the truth or what they want me to see? And like when the AI robots take over, I don't want them to be racist robots. I don't want the Terminator robot to come up to me and tell me you're a bad person because you are culturally appropriating things. I'll be black. Bang. I don't want that to be the last thing that I see.
Most definitely. Well, look, we'd like to see you again. The brilliant Michael Loftus can be found on Twitter at Mike Loftus Comic and at his brilliant website, theloftusparty.com. Brilliant stuff. Look, thank you very much for that, Michael. Royal news now, and the Duke of Sussex, Prince Harry, has lost a legal challenge against the UK government's decision to remove his right to high-level police protection when he's in the UK. It means that Harry and his wife Meghan will have to pay out of their own pockets for their family's security when visiting the Prince's home country. Let's get reaction now from one of America's most compelling political and cultural commentators, Blaze TV star Lauren Chen. Lauren, great to see you. If, God forbid, something happened to Prince Harry or his family, would the British authorities have blood on their hands?
Well, let's be clear about what this ruling actually means. If it's the case that the prince is going to visit his family, specifically his father or anything like that, or participate in any royal event, let's be clear, those events do have security. The palace, of course, has its own security. The question is, should the British taxpayer be liable for Harry's security or Meghan's security if they're doing something like going on some Netflix press tour to promote their latest tell-all documentary or smear campaign? I think that's a very fair question to have. And frankly, I don't think that it's fair for the prince to portray this as him going up against the crown and the racist, xenophobic British establishment, which he loves to portray his family as being, instead of him going up against the British taxpayer, which is really what this is all about. And if, heaven forbid, anything were to happen to the prince, honestly, I believe he's of high enough profile, as is his wife, that he should be responsible for his own security costs, like every other celebrity is currently. And let's not forget, since leaving the royal duties, that essentially is what Harry and Meghan are. They are just celebrities.
Well, you're absolutely right. He chose to leave the country, he chose to leave his family, and he chose to discard his royal duties. But of course, it's not Prince Harry's choice that he's the son of King Charles. Doesn't that make protection essential?
Well, it's definitely not his choice that he's the son of King Charles, but there are a lot of people who are thrust into the limelight by no choice or fault of their own, but that doesn't mean that they get to charge security to the taxpayer for the rest of their life. And I think the British people were understanding of providing security for the families, the Markles, as I like to call them, while they were still working royals and were still contributing to British life. But I mean, if you think about what the situation is right now, not only does Prince Harry visit the UK to participate in like family events, he's also going over for things like press tours and award shows. Now, we really need to ask ourselves, is it fair for the British public to pay for security for a celebrity who has essentially denounced the royal family and smeared not only them, but also the British public as being racist, xenophobic toward his wife? Is it fair for them to have to pay for his security when he is essentially going to promote himself, his own brand, for his own financial benefit. Like I said, he is simply a celebrity at this point, and it's not expected that any other celebrity has a free security provided for them. So it seems like Prince Harry and Meghan Markle are once again expecting to have their cake and eat it too when it comes to security.
I find it hard to disagree. The couple have signed some very big deals, but can they afford top-level protection?
Likely not, especially after, we know that Spotify dropped Meghan Markle's podcast. It seems that she's found another carrier, but the name of the game when it comes to Harry and Meghan after leaving the royal family is that their deals seem to be short-lived. There are a lot of paydays that we've seen them receive. But aside from Harry's book Spare, it doesn't seem like they've had a lot of successes in terms of their projects. So I think for now, it's safe to say they're able to afford the best of the best. Harry had a generous payday from his memoir as well as their Netflix deal. But the question, I think, is the longevity of their careers. You could only badmouth your family and have it be front page news for so many years. So I guess if I were in their position, I would be thinking longevity. What is this going to look like in the future? But simultaneously, according to Prince Harry and the specific legal challenge with the UK government, a lot of the threat that he sees his family as being under comes specifically from the media attention that the UK press is giving him. So perhaps if it comes to a day where they are no longer able to afford the security, they may no longer need it because nobody's talking about them anymore.
Too right. Now, Lauren, there is ongoing speculation about why Prince William, the Prince of Wales, pulled out of a memorial service earlier this week for the late King Constantine of Greece. Do Buckingham Palace need to come clean about the health of Princess Catherine in order to end speculation and rumours?
I'm of several minds with this. Of course, when it comes to something like this, the prince's appearance, a lot of people might say, well, his wife has just undergone this surgery. It's very understandable that he should want to be with her and also with his children. But we can't forget that, this is a job for people like Prince William, and he does have obligations, and he is there not just representing himself and his family, but really the nation. So I think it is perhaps understandable that he didn't attend, but I don't blame people who are starting to wonder, all right, well, if things really are that bad with Kate Middleton, that her husband is unable to perform his duties, perhaps we should have an update. And I think, obviously we expect privacy for the royals when it comes to serious matters. But I think ultimately this just goes to show how important Kate and William specifically have become to the royal family. I think there are a lot of people who essentially see them as perhaps even more important at this point than King Charles himself, just because they are a united family unit. We know that he's going to be ascending to the throne sooner rather than later, perhaps, depending on the king's health. I hate to almost cast a dark shadow over this, but it's simply true. And Kate Middleton has been a huge part of the royal presence, especially since Meghan and Harry have left. So it goes to show how much the British public is looking to them for representation of their country.
Most definitely. And Catherine and William are box office, aren't they, on both sides of the pond? Are Americans
Absolutely.
talking about Catherine's health, Lauren?
Yes, especially, when it comes to Kate and William, they're definitely not as talked about over here as Harry and Meghan, but that's not necessarily a bad thing, because I think the public sentiment is very positive toward Kate and William when they are mentioned. I think we look at someone like Kate Middleton, and not only does she almost represent the people, she's someone who is not born into royalty, but she simultaneously has that level of dutifulness to her that I think the public can see through the fact that she has assimilated so well to the royal family, and that she is so outspoken with her participation in all of these different charities that are near and dear to her. And so I think there is concern, absolutely. And I don't want to overlook, again, their need for privacy, but I think it comes from a level of concern when people are looking and saying, where is Kate? Is she all right? And I think recently we did just have an update from the royal family that she is expected to resume her duties after Easter. So I just hope that everything is all right with not only her, but the rest of the family as well.
Most definitely. Last but not least, Lauren, how did the news of King Charles's cancer diagnosis go down in America?
Well, of course, it's always sad to hear about something like that. And I think a lot of Americans, their hearts felt for the British people because they have just not long ago lost the Queen, and now King Charles ascends to the throne, and he is hit with this bad news. I think it seems like there's been quite a roller coaster for the British people when it comes to their royals. And again, I'll bring William and Kate back into this. I think that is why there is so much affinity for those two, because they seem like perhaps even the next strong pillars of the royal family, like the late Queen Elizabeth was before them, people who can provide consistency, longevity, and stability to the throne. Because right now, sadly, I hate to say this, it looks like that's been lacking. And then we add on all the drama that Harry and Meghan. It's been a little bit of a whirlwind, I think. Look from the outside looking in, what's going on with the royal family.
Lauren, what a thrill to have you on the show. We'll catch up soon. Lauren Chen is a host on Blaze TV and can be found at The Lauren Chen on Instagram, Twitter and Telegram. I'm Mark Dolan, and this is GBN America.